You are listening to the Digital Signage Today podcast. Are you a supplier or brand working to elevate the customer experience? The Interactive Customer Experience Association connects brands, suppliers, agencies, and more who are working to create transcendent customer experiences. Let's work together to create a better customer experience ecosystem for us all. Join the ICX Association today at icxa.org.
Welcome to the Digital Signage Today podcast. Today I will be speaking about big data with Mason Page, who is the Executive Vice President of Strategic Business Planning at Reflect. Now let's get into the news. LG Electronics recently unveiled its 49 and 55-inch XE4F outdoor displays, which are optimized for handling the outdoor elements and delivering dynamic content. Samsung also launched its micro LED display called the Wall Luxury. It's available in sizes from 72 to 292 inches and is designed specifically for luxury residential spaces. Our featured story for the week is calling for end users to submit their tough questions about digital signage, such as how much does it really cost and how do I find the best hardware? End users can submit their questions directly to Digital Signage Today, and we will present these questions to experts in the industry to get their take.
The Interactive Customer Experience Association's mission is to connect B2C brands to technology that elevates the customer experience. Brands have access to resources, project help, news, and insights based around boosting their customer experience. Suppliers gain network opportunities to reach these brands and help them provide solutions to elevate their customer experience. Join today at icxa.org.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Digital Signage Today podcast. I'm your host, Bradley Cooper. I'm the editor of Digital Signage Today, and I'm joined today by Mason Page. He is the Executive Vice President of Strategic Business Planning with Reflect, and he will be sharing with us some insights about big data and digital signage. How are you doing today, Mason?
Doing great, Bradley. Thank you for having me.
Excellent. So I want to get right into it with my first question for you, which is just what are some ways big data can help improve digital signage, especially its effectiveness? What do you think?
Yeah, well, I think one of the big words to focus on there is effectiveness. Mm-hmm. And for me and my team at Reflect, when we think about digital signage, there are really two audiences. One is the customer and then one is the brand. And so a customer and a brand, sometimes effectiveness would be measured in different ways. So what I mean by that is for a customer, maybe their effectiveness is a reduced friction in the shopping experience or better product recommendations or a more personalized experience, something that's really enriching their journey. However, for the brand, there are lots of really good ways that they can use big data for effectiveness purposes, like understanding who the most profitable customer base is. What do they look like? What are their traits? And then trying to figure out the content and experience optimizations that can be gleaned along with reporting that really report back on the effectiveness of the screens, the network, and the content on the screens. And then just having them, the data that comes from digital signage, being able to rope that in with true big data sets and understand how marketing is performing overall, with digital signage being a big part of that. So I think digital signage and measuring its effectiveness is a critical part of also making sure that it's part of a larger marketing strategy. And what we know today is so many big businesses now are using big data to inform their marketing strategies and to try to be more effective with where they're putting their dollars. And then I think lastly, with regards to effectiveness, it really comes down to attribution. As I've tried to personally get more familiar with big data, attribution seems to be the big benefit out there to brands who are starting to leverage it in a strategic way to understand all the different touch points that a brand has with a consumer and what ultimately is causing them to buy. And so as we're able to attribute more successes and insights back to digital signage and its effectiveness, that will in turn drive a lot of where marketers are putting their investment today. So I think just to summarize, it really helps us to mine more insights and make digital signage programs more effective. but I want to talk a little bit more about the specifics because I feel like we're really sharpening the blade of the network, which is creating more value for the shoppers, and it's creating more value for advertisers on these networks. But again, at the end of the day, it's also helping marketers become more effective by knowing more about their audience and being able to attribute purchase back to different touch points.
Excellent. So we are seeing a lot of value in integrating big data and also machine learning into digital signage. So in your opinion, why haven't we seen a greater integration of big data and machine learning insights into the digital signage?
That is a great question. And I want to start off by talking about my recent experience at the Shop Talk event out in Vegas. I had the opportunity to hear a lot of retailers just speak about what's keeping them up at night and where their attention is focused. And big data and machine learning was just on repeat. It was at the top of everyone's minds, but they were really more focused on CRM and digital media and digital advertising. And these retailers specifically weren't really talking about how they're carrying those learnings into digital signage. So I think right now, a lot of their attention is more on the marketing touch points that are upstream versus in the store. But why haven't we seen more of this? I think first off, it's really hard. It's really hard. It's challenging to properly analyze the data to create not just insights, but actionable insights. And I think the market's getting better at using digital signage to collect data to analyze versus using the data to create more of that optimized one-to-one experience. And I know that for me personally and others in the industry, that's where we want to get. We want to get to this one-to-one experience where I know you and you know me, and I can give you exactly what you need when you need it, and maybe even anticipate it. But I think right now, people are using digital signage to pull out the data, to put it into that larger data pool where they can, again, analyze it and learn more about attribution. So what we're talking about today is really hard, and it's kind of slow. So crunching big data and using these powerful BI engines, it allows us to learn learnings, but a lot of times they're at that higher level where, again, crunching big data may not give us that one-to-one experience, which I know so many of us are aspiring to achieve. And then as we talk about big data, just data ownership and getting hands-on data, which is so expensive today. So brands have first-party data, their agencies and partners have third-party data. So how do they get their hands on it? And then how do they strategically blend their data with a platform like ad tech to try to get a more comprehensive view of their customers? So data ownership, and of course with that comes privacy and data security concerns just by the population, just because with how many issues that we've had in the past. Mm-hmm. And then I think I'll cap it off as far as, well, why haven't we seen more of this? Even when you take big data out of it, content and limitations around content are still a challenge just for standard digital signage operators. So when you think about feeding the beast, where you're creating customized content for the shopper that's in front of you based on demographic characteristics or psychographic characteristics that you've been able to leverage, it can cause a really overbearing need to customize content. And again, that can just be a really big challenge for brands to feed the beast and to provide content that is on more of that one-to-one basis.
Exactly. So with that in mind, when do you think we're really going to see a greater integration of all these insights to create these more personalized experiences? Because we hear a lot about stuff that is possible in this field, but sometimes we don't necessarily see that translated to the real world.
Man, I wish I had a crystal ball that could help me to answer that question. As far as just when do we see it being more integrated, I don't know. Right now, today, again, I think brands with digital signage networks who are being really smart about it, they're pulling data and then they're leveraging it to understand more of that attribution and then to understand more of their customer profile. And then they're able to look at things like, well, what ran on a screen at what time and what happened to sales. So they're able to pull out some insightful learnings that way. And I think in the very near future, instead of brands aspiring to know, okay, Bradley Cooper is in my store and he's standing in front of this screen, so I need to serve him this specific promotion. Again, that's just really hard to do with where we are today. So there's this idea of probabilistic models, which is making business decisions just based on information. So I may not 100% know that it's Bradley Cooper, but maybe there's a 50% chance that it's Bradley Cooper. And so therefore, I'm going to do this and serve up this type of content. So I do think that that's a nice interim step as we're seeing more integration and working towards integration, is that probabilistic model of this is probably who I think it is, so therefore I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. And that's where machine learning comes into all of this. Machine learning is able to connect dots that we as people, maybe we can't see and connect. And so it can do that very, very quickly and at scale. And hopefully that'll help bridge the gap to integration. Exactly. But I know we work a lot in retail, and I certainly spend a lot of time just listening to retailers talk. And the good news is personalized experience, it just keeps coming up as a focus, because we understand that's what retail shoppers are looking for today. And big data is a part of where this is all going, but interactive applications are becoming more and more pervasive, and those are kind of the low-hanging fruit with how to deliver a more personalized experience for your shoppers. And even something where you're a brand who's connecting your online experience with the in-store experience, something as simple as buy online, pick up in store, where when you walk in the door, you see your name on a digital screen, you know where to go and that your order's ready. Or if you've got a native app on your phone and you're receiving a message as you come into a store. Now, those are kind of the low-hanging fruit where, again, we're not tapping into this big data universe, but we are using data and we're providing a more seamless and personalized experience. So we're getting better at that. We're getting better at interactive. And I think we're working on this journey of really trying to leverage big data towards true integration.
Exactly. And that brings up some interesting questions, because a lot of the things I hear about is digital signage vendors really want to push into more dynamic campaigns, those campaigns where you can respond directly to who the customer is, or even something as simple as what the weather is outside. So
that's right.
So with all this more integration of big data, do you think we're going to see more dynamic campaigns on the horizon?
I do, yes. I think that's something that's coming. And I think that we are all aspiring to have more of those one-to-one experiences. And interactivity is a great bridge for us right now. Mm-hmm. And what we understand, again, just by understanding today's shopper, is that dynamic campaigns, if they're done well, they're more value. Our entire goal here is to provide a superior customer experience. And research tells us that 80% of U.S. shoppers are actually willing to pay more for a superior experience. So we do want to be smarter and more dynamic with digital signage today. And I think big data is a lot of that connective tissue between what a shopper's doing before they come into a store and what they're doing inside of a store. And I think that a lot of this is just being fueled on the brand side. So in addition to what consumers are looking for and how their tastes are evolving, it can certainly drive sales and increase lifetime value. So as we're creating these experiences that are dynamic, we can serve you up with more relevant promotional offers, or we can try to increase your basket size as you come into a store. And I think more and more shoppers are getting more okay with that kind of big brother effect, because they're becoming more familiar with it, and that's part of their online behavior today. But so many shoppers are going online and then they're coming into a store. And again, I think that if we can bridge that gap, reduce friction without creeping them out, then that's a big advantage. And I think without big data, some brands are getting really smart about triggering content based on outside factors. So I did some research recently on McDonald's and their purchase of dynamic yield. And so a great example is on their drive-through menus, that they can change the content based on time of day and the weather and how many people are in the restaurant and what's trending right now, the best sellers. And so we can get into more of the conditional types of content that can be really dynamic, that are based on data or other outside conditions. And all that's doing is, again, it's creating a more tailored and specific message for the shoppers.
Excellent. So you mentioned a few concerns about dynamic data previously, one of them being obviously privacy concerns. Others I've heard is this is just really difficult to plan, especially, planning out 12 or even more different types of content. So what,
Yep.
in your experience, are some of the problems that vendors and end users alike need to address in order to really deliver those effective dynamic campaigns?
Well, I think a great starting block for that is trying to understand what the crawl, walk, run approach might be to marching towards big data and these more dynamic experiences. Just in doing research on this, because again, it's moving so fast and this groundswell is growing so quickly. A lot of brands, it seems like they're starting out by trying to boil the ocean. So I think it's really trying to understand, what data do you already have? What's the right BI tool that you can use to analyze the data? And then ultimately, how's it going to build your business, but how's it going to enrich that customer's experience? Because that's really what digital signage needs to do, is it needs to provide that experience for the shopper where it makes things easier, that we're helping them, we're surprising and delighting them. That's really the ultimate measure of success, is how it's affecting the customers. And then as we look at data in this world with privacy and security concerns, I think just the reliability and the expense are things that are going to need to be closely vetted. So how reliable is the data? What percent certainty is your BI team okay with? And the expense. And then I think it's that little bit of that creepy factor. So what's the strategy to make customers more comfortable with the fact that you're serving them with a dynamic message? And I think one easy way to do that is just to be more transparent with how the data is being used. And I know almost every website, it seems like I go to today, I get that cookie awareness, or when I'm opting in, it clearly tells me how the data is going to be used. And I certainly appreciate that. So I think setting expectations early on will prevent more problems in the long run. And then making sure that all the data that you're collecting is being used in a way that ultimately benefits the end user.
Right. And do you think that maybe using more anonymous forms of data would also be effective with really reducing customer anxiety? Because I hear about a lot of companies that are very clear that they only gather, what your mood is or what your demographic information is, but doesn't necessarily tie it specifically to you. What do you think about that?
Yes, I think so. I think anonymous video analytics it's a really powerful tool, because a lot of brands are trying to understand more about who their shoppers are, just what they look like, and what types of content resonate best with them. And so I think where it is anonymous is really helpful, and digital signage can cue content based off those factors. But again, as we take a step back and just look at, what is big data? Big data, a lot of it stands up on personally identifiable information. And there are a lot of sensitivities that come with that, and it's very powerful information, and ultimately it can help businesses to be more effective, as we've already talked about, and to deliver better customer experiences. But in today's day and age, it's just a big area of concern. And when you look across the pond at the types of regulations that Europe has instituted, we're living in a little bit of the wild, wild west. So I think regulations might be coming on to tighten up just how we're leveraging data, and what actually can be sold to an outfit, or what could be mined from an outfit. But certainly today, anonymous video analytics is a great way to trigger content based on something that's easy for us to understand about a shopper.
Excellent. Well, I want to thank you so much for joining us today, Mason.
Yes, thank you, Bradley. This has been a blast.
Excellent. And once again, that was Mason Page. He is the Executive Vice President of Strategic Business Planning at Reflect. Thank you so much.